Your sister can't carry a child, so you're going to do it for her. You hand Callie the baby, she walks away with $450,000, and you go back to your little life like none of this ever happened. You're just the body, Elise. My mother didn't blink. Deborah slid the legal waiver across the marble kitchen island like it was a restaurant bill. She looked at my belly, 6 months along, not with warmth, but with a cold, calculating stare. She wasn't asking me to help my sister. She was commanding me to surrender my unborn daughter so Callie could unlock our grandfather's inheritance. Before I tell you what I did when my own mother tried to trade my child for cash, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is right now. I want to see just how far this story goes. No. The word left my mouth before my brain could even dress it up, and with that one syllable, the temperature in the sunroom plummeted. Deborah didn't argue, she didn't plead. Her face twisted like something ancient and cruel had finally been unmasked. It wasn't the disappointment of a mother denied, it was the rage of a creditor denied payment. She lunged. "It's not yours," she spat, striking me in the shoulder. "You selfish little fluke, it's Callie's." The force knocked me off balance. My heel caught on the rug, and suddenly the glass table vanished from under me, replaced by empty air and a row of wooden stairs leading down to the garden patio. Gravity made the choice for me, but my mind didn't panic, it recalibrated. I'm a trauma nurse. Panic is something I treat, not something I indulge in. As the world twisted sideways, I didn't flail. I tucked my chin, curled inward, and locked my arms around my stomach, turning my body into a shield for the tiny life I carried. The first step hit my shoulder, the second my hip, then the unmistakable pop of ribs meeting the edge of a stair. I landed on the grass like a dropped doll, windless, staring up at the sunroom deck. My mother stood at the top, looking down, not horrified, not racing to help, watching, calculating, like a contractor checking to see if the demolition had worked. My training kicked in before the agony did. Airway, open. Breathing, shallow but intact. Chest, sharp pain left side, likely rib fracture. Abdomen, soft, no bleeding, no cramping. Then the most important check. I waited, a long, burning breath. Then, there it was, a flutter, a tiny, stubborn kick under my palm, still alive, still with me. I didn't scream, I didn't cry for help. That would have made me a victim, and victims don't survive people like Deborah. This wasn't clumsy, this was clinical, an attempt to erase me and reroute the inheritance. I dragged myself to my feet, ignoring the screaming in my ribs. I didn't go back inside. I walked to my car, locked the doors, and started the engine. Martin was standing behind the sliding door, watching, not moving, not helping, like he was watching a negotiation gone slightly off script. I didn't go to Memorial, where Deborah knew everyone from the board to the bursar. I drove 30 miles south to my own hospital, the one where I knew the nurses, the front desk, the trauma codes. I needed control. The pain blurred the world, but the truth was sharper than ever. For 31 years, I treated my relationship with Deborah like a chronic illness, something to medicate and manage. I thought if I was good enough, quiet enough, successful enough, it might improve. But now I had the diagnosis. Deborah wasn't a mother, she was a narcissist. The type who doesn't raise children, she grooms extensions of herself. Callie was the shining stock option, beautiful, obedient, polished. I was the sunk cost, the mistake that roped her into a marriage she despised. That shove down the stairs wasn't rage, it was strategy, an attempt to eliminate a liability so the money could flow to her chosen investment. I parked outside the ER, hand shaking on the handle. My ribs were bruised. They tried to kill my daughter, and they laughed for decades thinking I was just a spare part. But they forgot one thing. You don't bring a credit score to a knife fight, and you definitely don't attack a trauma nurse and expect her to die quietly. I walked into the ER not as a patient, but as a prosecutor gathering evidence. My discharge summary was my receipt. Bruised ribs, soft tissue trauma, but the heartbeat on the monitor thumped steady, a tiny, powerful drumbeat that refused to stop. I walked out with my case file pressed to my chest. It wasn't paperwork, it was ammunition. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. 19 missed calls, 40 messages, most from Martin. Elise, answer. Your mother is upset. You tripped. It was an accident. We'll cover your bills. Just come back. Don't make this into something. Think of the family. I stared at the screen, feeling nothing. This was the protocol, the post-assault rewrite, gaslighting with a bow on top. He wasn't worried about his unborn granddaughter. He was worried someone might find out, that the bank might question his line of credit, or the neighbors might whisper that his wife got physical. He was trying to patch the damage with the same funds they tried to steal. I hovered over the block button. It would be easy to vanish, to disappear into safety with Daniel and never speak to them again. But safety wasn't enough. Silence gives abusers time to rewrite the ending. If I wanted peace, I couldn't just run. I had to finish it. I thought of the patients I'd seen over the years, the ones who screamed and fought, and the ones who didn't, the quiet ones, the survivors. I became a gray rock. That's what they call it, a method for dealing with narcissists. You don't react, you don't explain, you don't defend. You become as dull and unappetizing as a stone. You give them no fuel, no reaction to spin. You let them stare at your silence long enough to feel safe, long enough to drop their guard. I didn't reply to the texts. I didn't send pictures of the bruises. I didn't shout that Martin was a fraud. I sent one message. It had to sound like submission. It had to read like a broken daughter giving in. I'm scared. I don't want to fight anymore. I'll talk about the waiver. I watched the typing dots pop instantly. They were watching. They were starving. Then I set the condition that would open the trap. But not at the house. I can't go back there. I'll meet you at Mr. Colburn's office. Just bring the papers. The reply was instant. Good girl. We knew you'd come around. 10 a.m. Don't be late. D. Good girl. The smugness bled through the screen. They thought I was crawling back. They thought a tumble down the stairs had shaken the spine out of me. They were walking into a victory lap. They had no idea they were walking into a surgical table. My ribs flared with pain as I turned the ignition. A reminder, a reason. I wasn't driving home to lick my wounds. I was driving to sharpen the blade. Mr. Colburn's office sat 25 stories above downtown Savannah. His conference room was a cold, towering rectangle of glass in mahogany that made you feel small on purpose. The air conditioning was so aggressive it felt less like climate control and more like body preservation. It was perfect, a sterile space for controlled incisions. I arrived 45 minutes early, enough time to transform. In the spotless restroom, I studied my reflection. The bruises across my ribs were deep, blooming violet and gray like oil spills. But my face looked alive, too strong, too alert. So I opened my makeup bag. I didn't hide the damage, I enhanced it. I darkened the shadows under my eyes. I dusted my cheek with the faint yellowing of fading trauma. I wrapped a thick ace bandage over my shirt and tugged my jacket closed just enough for it to show. I wasn't dressing for negotiation. I was costuming for a confession. I needed them to see a battered woman, a frightened, malleable daughter. I needed them to relax, to believe the war was over. Mr. Colburn met me with a handshake colder than the room. Classic Southern litigator, three-piece suit, crisp as ice, reputation built on legacy bloodlines and contract law. He was also the trustee in my grandfather's estate. "You understand what this is?" he asked, eyeing my ribs with impersonal interest. "I'm not recording them," I said calmly. "Georgia's a two-party consent state. I can't use audio. But you're a legal officer. If they admit extortion or physical threats in front of you, that's not hearsay. That's admissible." He paused, then nodded once. A wolf recognizing another wolf. "I'll leave the door cracked. My assistant and junior counsel are outside. Just get them talking." "They won't shut up," I said. "Not when they think they've won." At 9:57 a.m. they arrived. Deborah led, of course. Hair lacquered into a blonde helmet, white pantsuit tailored within an inch of its seams. Her eyes scanned the room like the air wasn't good enough for her. Martin shuffled behind her, gray and sweat-soaked, clutching a briefcase like a flotation device. And Callie, Callie looked like she was heading to a spa, not a custody theft. Oversized sunglasses, lip gloss, bored pout, like this was just another task to check off. They didn't ask how I was. They didn't glance at the bandages with concern. They looked at them like I'd worn something cheap. "Let's wrap this up," Deborah said, dropping her purse like it offended her. "We have lunch at 11:30. I sank into the chair slowly, exaggerating a wince. I let my shoulders slump, my eyes flick down, my breathing shallow. I was the picture of retreat. They looked comfortable, relaxed, triumphant, but then I noticed it. Deborah wasn't looking at me. She was texting, under the table, not casual scrolling, rapid, precise texting. I knew that look. That was the look people have in waiting rooms, the look of someone coordinating a backup plan. Who was she texting? Martin was here, Callie was here. Then it hit me. Aunt Donna, her sister, her fixer, the one who delivered threats with plausible deniability. Deborah wasn't just here to win. She was here with a dead man's switch. If she didn't send the all clear, someone else was set to pull the pin. I swallowed hard, just enough to sell the nerves. "Did you bring the waiver?" I asked. Deborah smiled, a slow, smug smile, all fangs and lipstick. "Right here, baby girl. Sign and we're all done. No more drama." She slid the document across the table like it was dessert. I lifted the pen. My hand trembled, not from fear, but from the earthquake of adrenaline. I hovered over the signature line. "Why now?" I asked quietly. "The trust isn't scheduled to disperse for another 6 months. What's the rush?" Martin flinched. His face cracked. He wiped his upper lip with a handkerchief that looked like it had been through a storm. "It's complicated," he muttered. "Just sign the damn form." "I can't," I whispered. "Not until I understand. Is it the lake house? Did you lose it?" "I didn't lose it," he snapped, palms slamming the table. The sound made Callie jump, but Deborah didn't flinch. Her thumbs kept flying across her phone, emotionless. "I leveraged it," he said. "I took out equity to cover some shortfalls." "Shortfalls?" I repeated. "As in your investments?" "Not just that," he mumbled, rising to his feet, pacing to the glass wall. "I borrowed from the wrong people. Elise. Private lenders, hard money. They don't send past due notices, they send warnings, they send people." He stood there, reflected in the skyline like a ghost of himself. "I took out $100 grand from the trust early, forged Colburn's signature to get an advance. I thought I could replace it before the quarterly audit next week, but the market dropped. I lost it all. If I don't replenish the account and transfer the trust to Callie before the books close, I'm done. It's prison, or worse." There it was. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. I looked at Mr. Colburn. He wasn't blinking. He'd just heard someone confess to a federal crime using his signature. I turned to Deborah. She finally put the phone down, not because she was shocked. She wasn't. She was irritated, not at the crime, at the weakness. "So it's about saving Dad from prison, but what about my daughter? You said I was just the carrier. You really want me to sign her away like she's a title deed?" Deborah leaned in. Her perfume hit me like rot masked in roses. "Let's not pretend," she said in that syrupy, knife-like voice. "You're an RN. You live in a rented duplex. You've got bills, no leverage, and no legal team. We have the means, the lawyers. If you don't sign that document, we will file for full custody. We'll present your fall as evidence of mental instability. We'll label you a danger to your child. We'll crush you, Elise, piece by piece." My pulse pounded in my ears. This wasn't greed, this was obliteration. They were trying to dismantle me to cover up their fraud. I saw it in my mind. Callie holding my child, me locked out of court, gaslit into silence. "Sign it," Deborah said sharply, "or we finish what we started on the stairs." Extortion, threats, conspiracy. They gave me everything. I looked at the form again, a waiver of parental interest, a contract to sell my soul. I took a breath and let the tremble fall away. I sat up straight, my spine lengthened, my eyes were dry when I met hers. You ungrateful. Deborah lunged, her hand raised, forgetting where she was, who was watching. I didn't sign, I said coolly, pointing past her to the oak door, but I think Mr. Colburn heard enough. The door swung open. Mr. Colburn stepped in, face expressionless. Behind him, 2 Savannah PD officers entered, calm and ready. The air collapsed. Martin made a choked sound and slumped into his chair, like someone had pulled the plug on his body. Deborah's hand froze mid-air, a statue of fury. She turned to Colburn, voice climbing into sweet diplomacy. "This is a family misunderstanding," she chirped, adjusting her blazer. "She's being dramatic. We were just—" "No. This is extortion, conspiracy, and a physical assault resulting in fetal endangerment. Officers, Deborah Ellis, Martin Ellis, Callie Ellis, please stand. You're arrested." The cuffs snapped onto Martin first. He collapsed, babbling about deadlines and debt. Deborah began shouting accusations at me, spitting about lies and manipulation. But it was Callie's turn that hit hardest. "I didn't touch her," Callie screeched, stepping away from her Karens. "Deborah shoved her. I saw it. I'll testify." Deborah's head turned so fast, I thought her neck might snap. She stared at the golden daughter who had just offered her up in exchange for immunity. "Don't touch me," Callie screamed at the cops. "I didn't do anything." "Accessory to conspiracy," one officer said, cuffing her. I watched them all go, Martin sobbing, Callie screaming, Deborah silent now, empty. When her eyes met mine, there was no hatred left, only ruin. The waiver still sat unsigned on the cable, the very paper they sold their souls for. Mr. Colburn told me I was free to leave. Daniel met me in the hallway. He pulled me in like he was afraid I'd vanish. "They're in custody," I whispered. That night, we wiped off the makeup, tossed the ace bandage into the trash, and ordered takeout. At exactly 7:22 p.m., red and blue lights flooded the front yard. A bullhorn screamed my name. Officers surrounded the house. A relative had called 911, said I was suicidal, said the baby was in danger. I didn't need to guess. Donna, Deborah's sister, the backup plan, a last attempt to destroy me from a distance. I stepped outside with my hands up, calmly explained, showed them my call logs, handed them Colburn's business card. The sergeant dialed it. 30 seconds later, they apologized and walked away. We'll be adding this to her record. The fallout was biblical. Martin took a plea deal. Deborah was charged with filing a false report and attempted coercion. Callie was written out of the will. They lost the properties, the connections, the power, and access to me. 6 months later, I folded onesies in a lavender nursery, alone with the only heartbeat that had ever mattered. The trust was sealed, my name changed, the locks replaced. My daughter kicked once, gently. "You'll only ever be loved," I whispered. Peace was the most expensive thing I'd ever bought, but I'd buy it again, every time. If you've ever cut off family to save yourself, type peace in the comments. This channel wasn't made for everyone. It was made just for you. Subscribe to this channel to get more stories like this every day.